Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Friday edition of NMH at 1. I am your host, Priska Agnolo, and thank you so much for joining us today. Let's get the show on the road. For now, we look at the latest 7-day averages in Namibia, measuring new cases of COVID-19. While it seemed that the second wave of infection started to subside, a substantial increase in daily averages is evident, especially in the far north of the country. Nationally, Namibia is now on average recording 58% more cases per day than 7 days ago. This number increased from 120 to 190. Your map shows health districts with an average daily occurrence of 5 cases or more. These districts increased to 10 from 7. Windhoek continues to report less cases, but in the Oshakati district, daily cases more than doubled. This district includes Ongwediva and Ondangwa. After outbreaks at various schools in the Oshikoto region, Omuthia is now recording an average of 27 cases per day and Onanjokwe 15. Omusati, Ohangwena, and both Kavango East, and for the first time also Kavango West, also continue to be hotspots for transmission. The weekend is upon us, so please do your bit to protect yourself and others.
What's happening, everybody?
Moving into our first video for the day. 2 oxygen concentrator machines valued at 45,000 Namibian dollars were handed over to the Oshodonjuba health system for use in the region's most remote areas. The machines, donated by Namibia Community Trust, were handed over to the Regional Health Director, Gebardo Timotheus, by the Governor of the region, James Urikua. Esther Kamati submitted this clip.
The Governor's Office, through its advocacy plans, have approached a number of institutions to seek assistance, and the Namibian Community Trust have headed that call, and they came forth by donating 2 oxygen concentrators to the value of 45,000 Namibian dollars. This is a donation aimed at to be fed into the regional health system under the stewardship of the Department of Health, under the Director's Office, for them to see where best they can be able to deploy these machines for them to be used. These are oxygen concentrators that are actually supplying oxygen to patients that are in need of to be assisted in terms of their breathing, as of when you need some oxygen support. So, Director, thank you very much. Thank you, my brother.
It is with great honor, gratitude, and sincere appreciation that I'm receiving these 2 oxygen concentrators as a donation from the Office of the Governor, Honorable James Urikua, Governor of the Namibia region. As we are all aware that since the outbreak of COVID-19, oxygen is an essential commodity that is needed to treat patients who are severely affected by the disease and need ventilation. These oxygen concentrators will contribute to the improvement of health services care delivery, as they will be dispatched to the most remote clinics in the region. Henceforth, this equipment will help doctors and nurses to save lives and minimize the COVID-19 related deaths in the region. Yeah. The concentrator is usually heavy the battery. It's heavy. We need to have water in. So it's having battery. It's actually one of the latest type of concentrators. So even if we don't have electricity, we will be able to ventilate and to provide oxygen to our patients, even in the most remotest areas of this region.
For our second video, Agriculture Minister Carla Schletwein said meat vendors in the northern regions will have to wait until the beginning of March before they can start selling cattle meat again. This comes after the vendors had to stop in January when the ministry announced the foot and mouth disease outbreak in that area. Tuemo Haidula was there.
Agricultural Minister Carla Schletwein said that meat vendors in the northern region will have to wait until the beginning of March before they can start selling cattle meat again. The vendors had to stop in January when the ministry announced the outbreak of foot and mouth disease, which left the vendors in the northern regions desperate and stranded. The outbreak, that was first detected in the Oshikoto region last December, led to the restriction of animal movement in the northern regions, resulting in suppressed economic activities in the livestock sector. Schletwein said that they had set up 36 roadblocks in the northern areas to monitor the movement of livestock. He was accompanied by officials on the FMD patrol from the first weeks. Here he is at Onathinga in the Oshikoto region.
Ending our broadcast on a lighter note, Otti the pig from Gebabis recently enjoyed a lovely holiday with his doggy brothers in Henties Bay. Do enjoy. Moving on to our front page dailies. Namibian Sun reports that the Ministry of Justice has announced a moratorium on legal aid services, leaving some accused without legal representation amid claims that government does not have money to pay lawyers. Namibian Sun understands the moratorium was imposed last September, and there is no indication until when the moratorium will be valid. Gladys Pickering, the Justice Ministry's executive director, yesterday said the stoppage forms part of a bigger overhauling process. There are so many factors and reasons for the decision. We are busy reforming the legal aid framework completely, she said. Republican reports that the Ombudsman advocate, John Walters, called the Windhoek lawyer, Mr. Marijn de Klerk, visited South Africa about 2 weeks ago after the latter came knocking on his door about the violation of his fundamental human rights. Walters confirmed on Monday that de Klerk was worried that after his affidavit was leaked to the media in January, he would not have a fair trial if he were prosecuted in accordance with the Fish-Rot investigation. He approached me and said that his fundamental right to a fair trial has been violated now that everyone knows what is in his statement, Walters said. According to him, de Klerk has once again shown that he fears for his life and also does not want to put anything in writing, as he is afraid that whatever he shares with Walters in writing may leak out again. Algemeine Zeitung reports that the managing director of NamWater, Abraham Nehemiah, said water consumption in Namibia is increasing incessantly and there is an urgent need for new ways to produce drinking water. He said this at the launch of the interim status report of a study on possible ways to supply water in Namibia through desalination plants. The study was carried out on behalf of the Namibian government. The cost of $90.5 million Namibian dollars were borne by the KfW within the framework of German cooperation. The feasibility, cost, and profitability of desalination plants and their infrastructure, for example, pumping stations, water reservoirs, power generation facilities, and pipelines were investigated. The project was started back in February 2019, but the planned date of completion, February 2020, could not be finally met. Unfortunately, due to unforeseen difficulties, we could not complete the study in time. The biggest problem for us was, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic. It forced our experts to return to their home countries, making it difficult for them to continue working on the study, Nehemiah said. The Namibian reports that SWAPO Member of Parliament Toby Aupindi is the latest ruling party politician to be linked to the fish rod corruption scandal. This was for allegedly cashing in on $1 million Namibian in cash from Icelandic seafood company Samherji. The alleged payment is contained in a document aired by the Icelandic National Broadcasting Service RUV this week on an investigative program called Key Vicure. Opindi, codenamed Mr. Chairman in some of the evidence that the whistleblower provided, yesterday denied allegations that he was bribed, insisting it was vague, embarrassing, and unfounded. New Era reports that the long-awaited divorce bill, which will allow couples to separate without having to prove instances of adultery and indiscretion before a divorce can be granted, will be tabled in the National Assembly in July this year. If passed, the bill will also give regional courts jurisdiction to handle marriage-related cases, making it easier and affordable to couples seeking to go their separate ways. And moving on to the inside pages of the country's dailies. Namibian Sun reports that the Environment Ministry has confirmed that thus far no ministry staff have been linked to rhino poaching cases in Namibia, while rhino poaching has declined in national parks over the years. Ministry spokesperson Romeo Muyunda said confiscated rifles from staff in the Etosha National Park and ballistic tests conducted is an investigation with the police, and so far no staff member has been linked to any poaching case. Should there be any such case, we will take action including criminal charges against that staff member. Muyunda said poaching in Namibia intensified from 2014. Prior to that, the country had 0 poaching incidents over the years, he said. He added that since the start of the poaching surge in Namibia, government and the ministry in particular have revisited strategies to counter those of poachers. Republican reports that the service level of the central medical store to public health facilities across the country has improved from 63% last year in January to 81% in the same month this year. Despite challenges, the provision of medicines to state hospitals and clinics has improved significantly, the Minister of Health and Social Services, Dr. Kalumbi Shangula, said. According to the minister, 370 out of 493 active clinical supplies, which are about 75%, are currently in stock at the CMS. Of those not in stock now, according to the minister, there are enough quantities at health facilities across the country. Of the 123 clinical supplies currently unavailable, 94 or 76% are on order and 16, which is 13%, are being purchased, according to Shangula. The remaining 11% was cancelled because suppliers did not adhere to delivery dates. According to him, the tenders for this will be re-advertised. The Allgemeine Zeitung reports that the Namibian Pilots Association and the International Federation of Airline Pilots Associations says the solution of Air Namibia is not in the best interest of the country. In the statement, NAPA shares views and opinions with the International Federation of Airline Pilots Associations. IFALPA had stated that the closure of the national airline was not in the best interest of the country. As a reason, NAPA highlights several examples. According to the report, the sudden closure of Air Namibia will have a profound negative impact on the economy, which will be felt in most sectors of the Namibian economy. According to a report by Oxford Economics, Air Namibia maintained a total of 4,550 jobs, direct and indirect, in the 2015-2016 fiscal year, generated 316 million Namibian dollars in tax revenue, and contributed 704 million Namibian dollars to GDP. Tax revenue alone was thus 55% of the grant that the airline received for the fiscal year, it said. According to NEPA, it has been observed several times globally that a huge effort and financial investment are required to restart a national airline after its closure. It cites an example that the Uruguayan airline Pluna, which was liquidated in 2012. The Namibian reports that a war of words broke out between Finance Minister Ipumbu Shimi and the National Union of Namibian Workers. Shimi said that the union, which is the umbrella body for SWAPO-aligned unions, was consulted in July and August last year and knew that the government intended to liquidate Air Namibia. However, NUNW Secretary General Job Muniaro said the finance minister was being economical with the truth and that the unions were not consulted on the liquidation decision. He asked Shimi to produce the minutes of the alleged consultation meetings. New Era reports that affirmative repositioning activist Ndimbulukeni Nauyoma wants members of the public to make a distinction between pronouncements made by Job Amupanda as Windhoek mayor and comments made in his capacity as an AR activist. Nauyoma yesterday dismissed assertions that Amupanda was an AR mayor. He said Amupanda was elected mayor collectively to serve the interest of all residents irrespective of their political affiliation. It must be noted that the mayor of the city of Windhoek is not mayor of the affirmative repositioning, but a mayor of the collective, he said. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for today. I've been your host, Priska Anyolo, live for NMH at 1. Do have a lekker weekend ahead and do stay tuned for the weather as well.